Hi, welcome to Monday Night Live Moshiach Matters class. We put this phone away because it keeps beeping every 5 seconds. All right. L'chaim, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol neh b'roi. I'm switching up my normal beverage for the evening from tea to beer, in case you're interested. Let's hop right in. We are starting the new book. The first parsha in the book of Shmos. Shmos. So we're in Shmos of Shmos. Let's see what we got going on. Get a length check, okay. Normal length. And let's rock and roll. Excuse me. Aleph. All the Elish was when Yisrael Haboyim ben Mitzrayim. Excuse me. And these are the names of the Jewish people that descended into Egypt. Isa ben Midrash, and the Midrash explains, Al Shem Geulas Yisrael Yiskaroi Ka'an. And the Midrash, it says, on the names of redemption, the Jewish people are reminded here. Behemshek masbir hamidrash ech kol shem ba bani Yisrael kashur legeula. So in the continuation and explaining in the Midrash, how are the names of the Jewish people, the 12 tribes, connected to the redemption? In other words, it's saying right here that the Jewish people went down to Egypt, which we knew and we know is the beginning of the descent into exile. Yet at the same time, it says, on the name of redemption, they were reminded of the Jewish people here. So they're going into the exile, and yet it says, in the name of the redemption, we're reminded of them. So the question is, what is the connection to the 12 tribes going down to Israel? Going down into Egypt, which is exile, that they're being remembered for redemption. What's the connection to redemption? The Drei Shabir, so explaining, a boy Mitzrayim, I descended to Egypt, Medubar, Bapashtus, Oid, Yishiridas, Bani Israel, Mitzrayim. Explain in a simple sense. This is the descent of the Yidden into the exile of Egypt. And it is written in the continuation of the Parsha, it was only after quite some time, a long time, that they were actually redeemed from Egypt. But Parsha Shla Achre, V'im kan ech oimer hamidrash al Shem Geula Yisrael Niskarka. And if that's the case, we know they weren't redeemed for quite a period of time afterwards, a long time, hundreds of years. So how can we say that when they're going down into Egypt, we're remembering them and we're reminded of redemption, right? It's like you're going into prison. You're saying, okay, now it's time to think about your freedom. It's a nice thought, but it occurred hundreds of years later. So what's the connection? Because the truth is the complete opposite is taking place. They're entering into exile, which, as we know, is the complete opposite of redemption. Midrash Achar Is, and it continues further on in the Midrash. Shego'ula mi Mitzrayim hayisa b'shvil shelo shinoi es shemam. And it says that on the Jewish people, it said they merited the redemption from Egypt because of one of the reasons given was that they didn't change their names. Reuven Shimon Nechasin, Reuven Shimon Silkin. that they went on the names of Reuben and Shimon down into Egypt, and they were redeemed from Egypt in the same names, Reuben and Shimon. In other words, they didn't try to hide or change their names or their identities. The Al Pizeh Yesh Lamar Shel Shmos Ben Yisrael Haboim Mitzrayim. And according to this, there's to say that these are the names that the Jewish people descended into Egypt with. Mugash is Gam HaZichois Shebegalala Nigaloi Ben Yisrael Mitzrayim. And this is emphasized also, as it says, that because of this they were redeemed from Egypt. And according to this, we could see, according to the explanation, the simple explanation of descending into Egypt or descending into the exile. So this is hinted that afterwards, this is the reason why they were redeemed from Egypt. In the continuation of the exile, the beginning of their descent into Egypt. And there we see, and these are the names of the Jewish people that descended, that there was no change in their names. And this is not the case according to the first midrash recorded above. That not only because of the names of the Jewish people, that they were redeemed in a continuation of a long period of time, literally 210 years. Rather, it says specifically that their names themselves were reminded on the redemption, talking about the Jewish people. In other words, these are the names of the Jewish people that went down to Egypt. Kai al Gula, referring to the redemption. Shazel, the Chora, the Stira, a Pashu, the name of Boy Mitzrayim. Okay, so there's two different midrashes going on here. One is saying that the Jewish people descended into Egypt, and we are reminded of the redemption of the Jewish people here, specifically, when they descended into Egypt. There's another midrash that says that they were redeemed. One of the reasons they were redeemed from Egypt is because they didn't change their names. But it's hard to reconcile these two things and saying, okay, well, that's why the first midrash says that as they descended into Egypt, they remembered on redemption. Because even based on the second midrash that they were redeemed in part because they didn't change their names, the redemption didn't take place for 210 years later. Therefore, we still have a question as to the first midrash and reconciling it with the second one. Further, we have to understand the fee parish of midrash shel al shem geulas Yisrael nizkar kan. According to the explanation of the midrash that says, in the name of the Jewish people, they're remembered here for redemption. That even also if we find this is an explanation of how they descended into Egypt, it's connected to the redemption of the Jewish people. The Reish Hasbar, Madua Madgish Zais Apost, Now let's even strengthen the question even further. Then when it's saying on the name of redemption, the Jewish people are remembered, it's also including the redemption of the future to come, not just the redemption of Egypt. As it says there in the Midrash, and it explains the relevance to the name Yosef to the redemption. Yosef al Shem Sha'asid, HaKadosh Baruch Hu lahosif v'gualal es Yisrael b'malchus harasha'a kashem shega'al oisem b'mitzrayim. That Yosef, the name Yosef, is connected to what it says in the future to come, that Hashem lahosif that he will add on to us and he will increase us and redeem us from the kingships of the evil nations. And this, of course, is referring to the first redemption of Egypt. Tikasivi habayom hahu Yosef hayash nes yadoi va'al pizam mitchazekes hashayla lo zebelavad shemekashrim as hayireh v'gados mitzrayim legola mitzrayim. This strengthens the question that not only regarding the question or the connection between the descent of the exile of Egypt and the redemption from Egypt, rather connected also to the true redemption in the future to come. Explained in other words, Mahi Hashaychus Shalboy Mitzrayim. What is the connection to the entering and descending into Egypt? The Gula sea level and the redemption of the future to come. In other words, let me ask finish the paragraph, then we'll sum it up. We know that the Torah comes from the root of hora'ah, which means to teach. So what is our lesson that we can learn out from this now? That literally thousands of years have passed since we went out to Egypt and since we were redeemed from Egypt. Okay, so the question is, what does the Jewish people descending into Egypt have to do with the redemption, that we're remembering their names on the redemption as they're going into the exile? Especially considering that it was 210 years that we were in exile before we got redeemed. And then on top of it, the Midrash explains that not only is this referring to the redemption from Egypt, it's referring to the redemption in the future to come. But the question is, what is this connected with us today? This idea of going into Egypt and being redeemed from Egypt when it's hundreds of years later. And in fact, when it says specifically that you're going into exile and you're being remembered on the redemption. So let's explore a little bit about what's going on. As we know, and I'm sure the Rebbe will say it in the Sikha, but that every single exile is connected to the exile of going into Egypt. And every single redemption is connected to being redeemed from Egypt. In other words, the first concept of exile, the Jewish people going into enslavement or exile amongst the nations of the world, occurred in Egypt. And therefore, every subsequent redemption is connected to that. Every single exile is connected to that. And also the redemption of Egypt is connected because it was the first concept and the first time we got redeemed. Is connected to every other redemption that will ever take place, including the full and final redemption. Base. Yesh Lamar Nikuras Hasbara. So there is a point to explain what's going on here. Welcome, Doug. That the entering into Egypt, in truth, is a redemption of the Jewish people. What does he mean? Hayarida b'shnei he b'chetzonius. That the descent down into Egypt, which lasted 210 years, was chetzoni, meaning it was external. Avo b'panemius, but in an inward dimension. Hayarida gufa haya lo rak b'shvil almanas va'elu b'shagula mitzrayim at the yisur mazeh chelik mahaliyah v'agulat tzmai. That the actual, in other words, there's two things going on. In every dimension of the world, we have chetzoni and panemi. We have external and internal. You can look at someone and judge them from how they look, but you have no idea what's going on in their brain or their emotions or what they're feeling inside. Because there's always the external concept of something and the internal or panemi or the essence of the thing. So the Rebbe is explaining now that even though we descended into Egypt, it wasn't really an exile. It was only an exile in the external dimension. But the innermost dimension of us not only do we say that you went down into Egypt and then afterwards you went out, so it's Yerida for an Aliyah, that you went down in order to go up. The Rebbe says, no, more than that. The whole concept of going down was actually going up. So the descent into Egypt itself was connected to the redemption. And from here we can say that the Midrash, where it says that these are the names of the Jewish people that descended into Egypt, and on the names of redemption of the Jewish people will be remembered here. And this intention is also referring to the future redemption, as we said earlier. And since the matters of going into Egypt, including the redemption that took place afterwards, including these times, as we pointed out before, the rabbis teach us that all kingdoms and all nations that enslaved us are all called on Egypt. And it says every single day you must remember that throughout all generations we're obligated to remember and recall the going out of Egypt today. Because every day we need to go out of Egypt. This isn't a one-time occurrence that we read about on Pesach and we fulfill our obligations. Every day we have to go out of our own personal Egypt, our own personal enslavement. And that we see from this that further that the redemption of going out and redeeming the Jewish people is also including, as we said earlier, the redemption that's connected to the full and final redemption, as we shall further explain. Gimel. Let's say a quick l'chaim for the murder of the Chas for Refuah Shlema, for Esther Bas Sarah Imanu, and God willing, everything should be good, and she should be able to travel in an easy way, in a safe way. Bezrat Hashem. Yuvan ze b'hakdim Rabbi Yorba Mishnah Acharayna v'Perek Hama the Brachas. And now we're going to talk a little about, in prefacing the explanation of this Mishnah from Perek Kama de Brachas, where it says, Amar Rabbi Eliezer ben Ezriya, Hari Anin Kaven Shavi'im Shana, although Zechisi Shinisan Mar Yetzias Mitzrayim, Balailis, Shidrasha ben Zayma, Shinamar, Lam'an Tiskor as Yoim Tesech Meretz Mitzrayim, Kol Yimei Chayav, Yimei Chayecha Hayamim, Kol Yimei Chayecha, Lahavi Lalayla, Hachma, Hachamim, Oimrim, Yimei Chayecha, Oidam Hazeh, Kol Yimei Chayecha, Lahavi Lamastam Mashiach. Okay, so we're bringing down, it says from the Nusach of the Haggadah of Pesach, so it says over here, Rabbi Eliezer ben Ezriya said, I am like a man of 70 years old, and it says, one second, Velo zechisi, and I don't recall Shitamar that it says that going out from Egypt with Leilos in the nighttime until Shidrasha ben Zayma, so it's emphasized that Ben Zayma says that you'll remember going out from Egypt all the days of your life. And the days of your life and all the days of your life to include the nights. And the Chachamim say all the days of your life are referring to Olam Hazeh, The days of your life are referring to Olam Hazeh, and all the days of your life are referring to the days of Mashiach. So there's two different opinions when it says that you should recall the going out from Egypt all the days of your life. One says that all the days of your life are referring to not only the days, but the nights. Wow. Moshiach Now. Polskinner. Nice to make your acquaintance in the Mashiach shir. That going out of Egypt is referring to, according to the first opinion, remembering the days you out of Egypt, all the days of your life, referring also to the nights. And the second opinion of Chacham is referring to not only the days of your life in this world, but the days of your life in Yemot Mashiach, in the world to come. The Farish Rashi, so Rashi explains, Kaven Shavim Shana, that I am like a man of 70 years old, is what Rabbi Eliezer ben Ezriah said. Kavar Ha'isi Nira Zakan, Velo Zakan Mamash. Says he was like an old man, but not like an old man mamish. Shiva As Elav Shiva Yamayim. Sha'avir Rabban Gamliel, Mishanesai, V'yimino Rabbi Eliezer ben Ezriah, Nasiah Kadisa, Lakamen, V'perach Tefillah Hashachar. Excuse me, V'oiser Hayon Dirash ben Zoyma Mikrazeh. It's like Shaykh the Hamayim, the Baal Hamayim, Rabbi Eliezer ben Ezriah. We'll explain in a second. The Shaykh is the Chacha Mishana Shana Rabbi Yoim. Shnistama Eliezer Nasi. Amistavar Lomar Shemechivan Sherabi Eliezer Oisek Besugia Zu Batorah Bayom Shana Asa Nas. Zak Ashraim Avodasai Kanasi Yisrael. וכן השייך לדברי רבי אליעזר, הייני כבן 70 שנה דווקא. So it's referring to the fact that he's like, I said I'm like a man of 70 years old. That he wasn't old like 70 years old. In fact, he was quite young. I think he was 18. Where he's referring to himself like a man of 70, but he wasn't 70. So what's going on? Because we're going to talk about, with God's help, a little bit more. That's referring to the connection to his work in this year, and his work is connected to the fact that he says I'm like 70 years old. So it's using the term 70 years old for a specific reason, not just because he appears to be elderly. It says that he had the appearance of an old man with a long gray beard at quite a very young age. But the number 70 is a specific year that is being used, as we will talk about in further chapters ahead. Now we're going to explain. But Mishnah Bali Day between Golda Ha'iloi V'Chashavach Yetzias Mitzrayim, and the Mishnah is talking about this concept of the great elevation from going down into Egypt. Shagam Na'achar Shabbanei Yisrael Yetzim Mitzrayim, including after the Jewish people went out from Egypt. And where it says in the obligation that you must recall the days of going out of Egypt, all the days of your life. According to the opinion of Rabbi ben Zoyma, that's referring to the days and the nights that you must remember. And also referring to Olam Hazeh and also Yemot Mashiach. These are the words of the Chachamim. So there's two different explanations as to what it means based on whose opinion we're going with. And we're going to dissect both of them and make sense of both of them. First of all, we see that the idea of recalling of going out from Egypt, that this is the foundation, it's a great foundation and strength of our Torah and our Amunah. Because as we said earlier, this opened up the pipe for redemption. In other words, every single thing that happens in this world, there's a process to it. So once there's an opening that basically opens up the pipes for future situations. So when we went out of Egypt, it wasn't just a one-time redemption. It was opening up this capacity for redemption that God was bringing into the world that didn't exist previous to this. We didn't have exile, so we don't have to worry about redemption. But now, God's basically showing us, like, just like I took you out of Egypt, the Rebbe quotes the pasuk many times, from the Nevuah, where it says, just like I took you out of Egypt, I will once again show you wonders when I redeem you from the Egypt we're in now. Meaning, every subsequent redemption has already been set up for the going out of Egypt. There should be zero doubt in anyone's mind that the Geula is not only imminent, but that it is 100% happening. Right? It's kind of the argument where people can't understand this concept of Tchiat HaMesim. God's going to bring back the dead? Are you kidding me? God creates life from nothing. How much easier is it for him to create life from something? He already created life. Now he's reincarnating that life from the loose bone. Why is that so complicated for God? It's the same thing. Oh, God's going to redeem us. He's going to just take us out of here. Well, yeah, he already did it from when he took us out of Egypt. So that whole concept of redemption is already a basic concept of our entire Torah. The concept of the Jewish people going out from our service of harsh labor and exile or prison, if you will, and this idea, this concept to bring it about in a revealed way, that this is a cause of how God is going to make this happen. And this is connected to our service. Now we're going to connect this to our work and what it means for us on a personal level. Yetzias Mitzrayim Ora'ah Yetziah Dem Nefesh Elokis Mitzrayim Beguvin Limishal Me'asora Haguf Odem Hazavachah. That the whole concept of going out of Egypt, if you were at our beautiful center Shabbaton this Shabbos, Baruch Hashem, we had 25 guys at the Payne Creek State Park in upstate Florida, and we forbrang at the fireplace Moti Shabbat about this exact idea that we're talking about now. Then what does it mean going out of Egypt? It means our godly soul is entrapped in limitations and boundaries from the animal soul and the physical body. They're entrapping it inside. And this is what it means. We have to go out of Egypt. To connect and unify ourselves with God. How do we do that? Through keeping Torah and mitzvahs. At the end of the day, that's what it boils down to. There's no shortcuts. There is no emunah in God without keeping Torah and mitzvahs. It doesn't exist. It's a very nice concept. But the reality of it is, at the end of the day, I was talking to someone about this exact point. We were discussing different points about Mashiach and redemption, and he was lacking in particular areas of knowledge. And I said, are you learning the sikhs of no knowledge, no base every week, as the Rebbe instructed us? No. So how are you possibly supposed to know about Mashiach and Geula if you're not learning about Mashiach and Geula? It's like sitting and telling someone, do you understand about the Gemara? Well, no. Why not? Why don't learn Gemara? Well, it makes sense, right? You have to study something and learn it for it to become part of you. So that's the whole idea. That through learning Torah and mitzvahs, this is how you connect to God. There's no other way. Okay, I like to do things this way. I talk to God in my own words. That's fine, but still talk to him in the lashon of the prayer. You like to do things for God, and fine, but still do Torah and mitzvahs. Because this is the path that God has given us to connect him. And this is the general concept of the entire Torah. To recall the day that you went out of Egypt, all the days of your life. Excuse me. Remind me not to eat chili before I share, please. To the point that in every generation, in every day, man is obligated to view himself as if he went out of Egypt today. But practice yishnam bezeh shloisha shlavim dedarkis. So how do we go out of Egypt? The Rebbe says there's 3 general levels of how we go out of Egypt. Aleph, maskir rein yitzias mitzrayim kol yoim v'yoim. That we have to recall and remember going out of Egypt every single day. Kashameir or Hashem, referring to the light of God. Tzrik b'pastus, that it should be in a simple way, that the light of God should be shining upon us. That literally, that this light, this energy should be upon us, as if we were going out of Egypt. And this is the service of a Jew to go out of Egypt. That means this concept that we have to go out of Egypt means every single day we have to go out of our boundaries and our limitations. I'm sure we've all been in this situation. If not, then I'll just speak for myself. Where you notice someone said to me the other day that I said something, they're like, "Oh yeah, you're the third person who told me that." I'm like, well, in my book and in God's book, 3 is a chazaka. So if 3 different people are telling you the same thing, it's a pretty safe bet that God is trying to speak to you through different people. In other words, sometimes God gives us tests. And how do we know we passed the test? Because we don't have that test anymore. But if the same thing keeps happening to us, and we can't figure out why this keeps happening, why does this keep happening to me? Well, apparently you haven't figured out the test and you haven't passed the test. So the idea is that every day we have to go out of Egypt. We have to go out of exile. We have to go out of our limitations. We have to be aware, as the Alter Rebbe says in the Tanya, we have to be a master of accounting. That means don't just go through life and, it's easy because we're all very busy and we all have a lot going on, but try to take some time to reflect upon the things that happened to you throughout the day. Try to reflect on the things that upset you or that triggered you or made you angry or upset or anxious or worried, whatever that may be. And get to the root of it and realize that if God keeps putting you in similar situations, there's obviously a message and there's obviously a test you have to pass. Because if not, it's kind of like a video game where you keep getting stuck on the same level. Not that I play video games, but I used to when I was a kid, where until you figure out where the sword is buried or the treasure is, whatever it is, you don't get past the level. It's the same kind of idea. Okay, base. Now, there's an additional addition in the Midrash that says, that we learned earlier, that when it says you should remember going out of Egypt all the days of your life, it's also referring not only to the days, but the nights. What does it mean? Ben Zomer brings down from the pasuk, to recall and remember the days of going out of Egypt, all the days of your life. It's also including nighttime, according to his opinion. What does that mean? In a pshat, we say, okay, in a simple way, so we have to remember going out of Egypt, not only in the daytime, but in the nighttime. But obviously there's something deeper to that. Referring to the time of darkness. Then the light is not shining. This is also referring to the nighttime of the exile. This is also going out of Egypt. In other words, we talked about earlier in the first letter here that part of it is going out with light, meaning that we should bring light into everything we're doing, Torah and mitzvot, to help us get out of the darkness. And the other time it means is that specifically in the dark. In other words, when the lights are on, when the spiritual lights are on, when you see there's enough money in your bank account to pay your bills, when you see that God is revealing himself, you got the promotion you wanted, you're getting along with your wife, your kids are acting great in school, everything is going wonderful, and you're smiling because you feel God is with you. And then we've all been there. All of a sudden, bloop, God flips the light switch and he goes into the dark. Now, what do we do? If you're like me and the rest of us, you panic. That's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to realize and say, hold on a second. The same God that when it was light is the same God now that it's dark. And even though I don't see the hand of God like I saw when it was light out, I know for sure, and I'm still not changing the aspect of going out of Egypt, going out of my boundaries and limitations. It's not time to panic and be like, I can't do this in the dark. No, you got to do it in the dark as well as the light. Gimel. And the Hachamim add another concept where it says, Noisiv al kol olam hazeh. Gam yiviyas Mashiach hachidush b'zeh b'fal. They're adding a new chiddush to this idea of going out of Egypt. That going out of Egypt, you should recall all the days of your life, referring to the days of this world, olam hazeh, but also referring to the Yomos to Mashiach, to bringing the days of redemption. That even in the times of Mashiach, we need to recall going out of Egypt. That sounds like a chiddush, the Rebbe says. So now we're going to give a couple reasons why this seems like a novel concept. The unique idea that he's bringing down of the calling the going out of Egypt, all the days of your life, referring to Olam Hazeh and this time and this place, also including Yemot HaMashiach, the days of redemption. Including also recalling going out of Egypt, the days of your life, also preceding the days of redemption, and it does not seem, the Rebbe says, let me continue, because I often make the mistake of explaining the Rebbe before he explains himself, and it's not very nice of me, because obviously he could explain himself better than I can. So let's see what the Rebbe said. We know that the future to come, the future redemption, is going to be way more wondrous than the redemption that when God took us out of Egypt. For the simple fact that when he took us out of Egypt, we knew there was 4 more exiles we'd have to go through. But when we go out of this final exile, there'll be no more. So it's going to be the final redemption. So obviously it's a lot more impactful than being redeemed, knowing we're going back in exile. You have the ruach hatuma of Yerim hearts, and the spirit of impurity will be removed from the earth. Because when we go out of the final exile into the true and complete redemption, there will be no more Egypts. There will be no more constrictions or limitations or boundaries. Because when we went out of Egypt, we were still evil. In other words, we hadn't transformed the evil. In the nusach of Chassidus, we were at the concept of eskafia, if you will. We pushed the evil away and we ran away from it. But we hadn't reached the level of etchapcha, or transformation, where there is no more evil. And that's how it will be in the days of Mashiach. And therefore, it says, remember also in the days of Mashiach, going out of Egypt. Okay. Hey. Now we're going to start explaining everything in a little bit of a deeper way. Beer gets nasty when it gets warm. Beer has to be cold. The Rebbe doesn't say that inside. That's just my own perush. Hey, so let's explain. As we said before, that the redemption from Egypt, this was a very important Egypt, because very important redemption, because it opened up the pipe and the ability for all future redemptions. The serum is even more than this. That in the future to come, when we go out of Egypt, and we go out of Mitzrayim, the last Egypt, there'll be no more exile. Hashem yimloch le'olam ve'ed, because God will rule forever and ever. Kafisha Bani Yisrael Amru V'Shirim Hayom, as we said in the song of the day, Ki Hayu Niknisim Az Biyad Eretz Yisrael B'Geula Shlema. Because then immediately you will take us out of here and bring us to the land of Israel, to the true and complete redemption. And the Mekevan Yisaru Ininim Tzedidim Arizel Lo Tekifim before. Al Pizay Yesh Lamar Shema'iti Sha'amitis Ha'inim Yisias Mitzrayim Ha'i Yemos HaMashiach. So according to this, we could say that the true matter of going out from Egypt, referring to the days of Mashiach, which are called the true and complete redemption, and the true innermost dimension of the days of Mashiach are connected to the redemption of Egypt. As we said, that's the opening of the pipe for all future redemptions. That because it appears to be that there is a great separation in time between the time we went out of Egypt and the time we're going out of the final exile now. Nevertheless, the Rebbe says it's only b'chitzonius. It's an external thing. But also including all the time that existed between going out of Egypt and going out of the final exile, referring to all the days of your life. Remembering the days you went out of Egypt. That remember that even when we went into Egypt, in the innermost dimension of us, we're never enslaved. And therefore, the going out of Egypt includes the days of Mashiach, because this inner concept of going down to Egypt, in a panemius way, we were never in exile. I know it's a hard concept to grasp, but as we forbear about this Shabbos, and I speak about it on a regular basis, there's multiple levels to our soul. And the key to unlock redemption and the key to go out of the exile in our own individual lives is to keep tapping into deeper and deeper dimensions and states of consciousness. Because, one second, I lost my place. Just for example, your nefesh is connected to your physical body. And if you think that your entire life is based on what you see and what you feel, and not what you see or your behavior or what happens to you in the physical world, if it doesn't go your way, you're entrapped. Then you go deeper into your ruach, which is your emotions. And if you're attached to your emotions and you start thinking that you feel this way, or I'm an angry person, or I'm a mad person, or I'm this kind of person, now you're stuck in the exile of your emotions. And then you go deeper and you could get stuck into an exile of your brain or your neshama, that your thoughts are the ones that imprison you. But when you go to the deeper levels of your chaya and your yechida, which are above your body and above your limitations, and this comes about through learning chassidus and connecting to the catch of the crown, the fifth level of your soul, then whenever is going on externally from you, including your thoughts and your emotions and your actions, you realize none of that could ever imprison you, because you're connected to the essence of your soul and the essence of God. And therefore, even throughout the trials and tribulations in life, you realize that the tests are just external. They're not touching your being. And the same idea that Rebbe says when we went down into Egypt, the inner essence of a Jew never got imprisoned. The Frierdiker Rebbe said it when he went out from prison. And when he went in, he said, it's only my body that they're imprisoning. The soul of a Jew is always free. It can never be imprisoned. Now let's try to understand this idea of when it says remembering the days of going out of Egypt, all the days of your life, including Yemot HaMashiach, the days of Mashiach. Because if you think about it, it doesn't make sense, really, right? When we're going to be chilling in the Beis Hamikdash with the Melech HaMashiach, and all the big Tzaddikim and all the great Avos and Moshe and Abraham and Yitzchak and the Moshe Tov and Yaakov and so many Tzaddikim. And we're going to be living in a state of the ultimate redemption in the base of Mikdash, celebrating for bringing, and we're going to be remembering Egypt. We're going to be saying, I remember the days that I went out of Egypt. Who cares about it then? We're going to be living in redemption. So why do we have to recall going out of Egypt even when we're in Geula? The going out of Egypt in the beginning is connected to the innermost dimension of Mashiach. As we said earlier, because as we went down into exile, we weren't really going down. We were beginning the process of our redemption. And the process of our redemption just so happens to encompass going into challenges, difficulties, obstacles, so we can be redeemed from overcoming those challenges, difficulties, and obstacles by tapping into our innermost powers that enable us to overcome these obstacles and challenges, otherwise known as Egypt. Base. The going out from Egypt in actuality is a chiddush in the days of Mashiach. It'll be something unique. Shishna gam hamayla li'yetzias Mitzrayim. Hamayla eskafia de sitrach. V'kevan sheharah adayim b'tikfo. Now the Rebbe says another reason why we remember going out of Egypt all the days of our life, including even Yomot HaMashiach, is because there's something unique in this idea. What is unique? There's an advantage of the times of going out of Egypt. What it was when we went out of Egypt, like I said earlier, it was a concept of eskafia sitrach, pushing away the evil. But the evil was still in existence. We know because that's why the whole story, all these stories of the Torah are connected to deep inner matters that are going on in our soul. When we ran away from the Egyptians, if we already reached a level of etapka, of transformation, they wouldn't have chased after us. Pharaoh wouldn't have realized, what am I doing? How did I let my slaves go? Let's go get them back. Because Pharaoh would have already been nullified. But he wasn't. Because the strength of the klipas, of the impure forces was still there. But in the days of going out from Egypt in the future to come, everything will become tafel, the secondary. In other words, the main revelation that will take place in the true and complete redemption, will be above any boundaries or limitations, and rather, therefore, there will be this concept of remembering going out of Egypt. Because the advantage of the true and complete redemption will be way more advantageous over the, because there'll be no more boundaries or limitations, they'll be completely nullified. Then we will reach the level of etapka, transformation. And drawing down this level of the boundaries of all the days of your life, referring to this world, which is not the case. Then we're remembering going out of Egypt. So we see that even in the future redemption, we're going to miss these days. We're going to miss the service. It's going to be a different level of a service. It's going to be a much higher avodah. We're not going to be bored, believe me. We'll still have free choice. It's just we won't be choosing between good and evil. We'll be choosing between good and good. What type of good am I going to do today? But there will be a little bit of us that will look back and say, I miss the war. I miss that fight. As much as we hate that grind, we can't stand it. But there's an ever so slight tainuch to it. That when you overcome your challenges, your obstacles, and you experience redemption, feels good. You're releasing dopamine. There's a tainuch to it. So the Rebbe is saying that even in Yomot HaMashiach, we're going to remember going out of Egypt because of the time of the work of Etapcha, of Eskafia, rather than Etapcha. The sweetness of overcoming evil instead of it already being transformed. According to this, we could see a chiddush, something unique regarding the opinion of the Chachamim over Ben Zayma. Noisef al divrei Ben Zayma. Adding on to the words of Ben Zayma. When he said going out of Egypt, you should recall all the days of your life. It also means including the nights. Specifically referring to the exile as the night, right? Because we are in a state of darkness. And the Chachamim added, that all the days of your life, referring also to the days of Mashiach. And all the days of your life, referring to this world. They added this idea referring to also the days of redemption. Will there be no more exile? And the exact language where it says to bring the days of Mashiach. The service of going out of Egypt all the days of your life, referring to this world. Aleph, Machnisa Es Yomos HaMashiach Ad Yisrael, and talking about entering the days of Mashiach from this world, transforming from this world into redemption, and more than this base, before Yemei Hayecha, to bring in actuality all the days of your life, that they should be complete in the true and complete redemption, because we are entering into Yomot HaMashiach, the days of redemption. Zion. Al Pizeh Yuvan HaShaychis HaMishnah LeRabbi Eliezer ben Ezriah Sheba'isa Hayoim Nasa Nas. Now we're going to go back to the Midrash where we talked about Rabbi Eliezer ben Ezriah and the day that he became a Nasi. Chidush Shel Nasi Yisrael. And the unique thing the Rebbe says about the leader of the Jewish people, the Nasi. Who the kasher the achad, kol yemei chayecha, which is connected to all the days of your life. Shall call echad b'bnei Yisrael, that each one of the Jewish people, call Yisrael, right? Kol yemei chayecha, gashmim o'odam hazeh, but part as manogalas, referring to all the days of your physical life, in this physical years, and specifically referring to the time of the exile, which is referred to Lila or night. Gam Geula, and also referring to redemption in general. But Prat im Yomos HaMashiach, and specifically the days of Mashiach. Geula mitzvah shleima, the true and complete redemption. She'ein achri galus, will there be no more exile. Dafka hanasi b'koichei lachaver la'echad es ha'golas el ha'geula. The Rebbe said it's specifically the Nasi, specifically the head, the leader of the generation, that has the ability and the power to unify the exile with the redemption. Right? We went out of Egypt because of who? Because of Moshe. The same concept in our generation. We're going out of these days because of who? Because of the Rebbe. You need a leader. It's the Nasi's job to take us out. You can't do it without him. But Pati Shirisa, more specifically, the Chavar as Yitzias Mitzrayim Yomos HaMashiach, to unite the going out of Egypt and the days of Mashiach, Tizchor as Yom Tzeichas Eretz Mitzrayim Kol Yemecha, recalling the days of going out of Egypt, all the days of your life, the Yomos HaMashiach, to bring the days of Mashiach. Shebechayev Shel Yehudi, that a Jew is obligated Kol Yemecha, all the days of our life, Knashama Baguf, in our souls and bodies, while the Mazah Gashmi, V'chayim B'zman Agos, in this coarse physical world in this time of exile. Who Yechol Yitzias Mitzrayim B'Gvulim? All to go out of Egypt and go out of boundaries and limitations. And not only that, to bring about the days of Mashiach. In other words, every single Jew has this obligation. It's the Nasi Hador's general obligation. He's responsible for the generation. And that's why he is demanding upon us to be responsible for our own selves. Because each one of us needs to be responsible. We can't kick back and rely on someone else to do the work. We all have to take ownership of this idea of bringing Mashiach every day of our life and going out of Egypt every day of our life. Okay, Ches. Excuse me. Okay. יש לומר שזה הקשר היא גם עם הקדומויסוי של רבי אליעזר הרי אני כבן 70 שנה. Now we're going to talk about, as we touched earlier in the Sikha, that Rabbi Eliezer said when he became a Nasi, I am like a man of 70 years old. Gemara Misparis, and the Gemara tells the story. Rabbi Eliezer Amar Hari Ani Kaben Shevaim Shana Velo Ben Shavim Shana. I am like a man of 70 years old, but I'm not 70 years old. Ki Chayaz Rak Ben Yechashana. He was only 18 years old. Yitchradchish Li Nisa Hadara Tevna Sari Hadara. He said he already became a Nasi. He was a Nasi Hador at 18 years old, if you could imagine. Yet he was fitting to be a Nasi. And he had white beard hairs. And now he wasn't old, but he gave the appearance of being old. 18 years old, he had a long white beard, and it said he was like a man of 70. Nimsa, so we can take out from this. That the completion, he says, one second, where'd I go? Hold on a second, I just lost my train of thought. Okay. The completion of a Nasius, of a leadership of a Nasi, is connected to 70 years specifically. Ba'ad kirikach she'ad az yeh mitzav shemavli abet al-kol ma'alasei shel Rabbi Eliezer. Hu hacham v'hu ashir, hu ashir la'azer. That he was very wise and very wealthy at a young age. So what does it mean that he was like a man of 70, and the number 70 is connected to the completion of a Nesias, a completion of a leadership period? It says a man's life is completed at 70 years old. As it says in Perki Avos, and also in Tehillim. That in one's years, in them there's 70 years. That this completion, Hashleimos Hilakach, Shadam Megia Az the Avodas the Bibur, call Hasheva Midois Kafish Ahelu Bashleimos. That when someone, a man reaches 70 years old, then his work of refining and rectifying his 70 emotions reaches its state of completion. A crazy story. now's not the time to go into it, but it was a wild story. It took place like maybe 7 or 8 years ago in my office. I'm just going to give you the 30-second version. This guy was we had an office in Delray Beach at the time, and also an office in Fort Lauderdale and Miami. We had 3 offices, and he wanted to meet someone to go over an issue with his mortgage. He needed a loan modification, and we had an office. Someone was in the office in Delray Beach. 5 minutes. The guy lived like in Boca. It was like 10 minutes from his house. And he's like, no, I spent like half an hour on the phone with him. He's, no, I specifically want to meet you. I was like, listen, it's my partner. You can meet him. It's the same thing. He said, no, I feel comfortable. I talked to you. I want to meet with you. I'm like, you have an office 10 minutes from your house. It's going to take you 45 minutes to come to us, maybe an hour. Just go by your house. Nope. He insisted on driving all the way down to Fort Lauderdale. I had another appointment, and I had to leave at a certain period of time, and a conflict. I said, listen, I need you here by this time. He said, no problem. He showed up 15 minutes late. He apologized. There's traffic. And he's sitting there, and we finished the consultation, and it was like about to leave. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I have to run. And he said something like I don't remember. I have the details written down somewhere, like a Jewish word or something like that. And I was like, where'd you get that from? I mean, the guy looked like a goy lagamri. Long story short, we got into a conversation and found out that his grandmother married a bishop, someone high up in the church, and then they escaped Europe, and that she concealed her identity, and that they raised his mother Catholic, and he was raised Catholic. Long story short, the guy was a full-blown Yid, and he never had put on tefillin before. And we put tefillin on together. And after we finished, he was very happy. We took a picture to send to his wife. And he said, by the way, I said, it's your bar mitzvah. He said, by the way, today is also my birthday. I'm 70 years old today. I said, wow. Because it's known concept, as we're saying right now, that a man has 70 years to live, meaning that 70 is connected, as we're saying right now, to rectifying your 7 emotional attributes. And here he was, for the first time in his life, realizing he was a Yid. At 7 years old, on his 70th birthday, he put on tefillin. So it's like he got the tefillin right at the end of the 7 emotional attributes that had to be rectified. It was a crazy story. And afterwards, I realized, I'm like, this guy's like arguing here. He wants to come to see me specifically, and I'm sending him to another office because I just figured, what do you need to see me for? But I told him afterwards, now I know why you needed to see me. It wasn't your idea. God wanted you to come see me so I could put tefillin on you. Anyway, so that's what it's saying. That 70 is a completion of rectifying the 7 emotional attributes. That when a person reaches, this is the completion of his work of rectifying all 7 emotions. Sheva kula me'esra, 7 times 10 is 70. But pratis yosher notnim la'adam sheve'im shana v'chudei l'sayis ha'zavoras ha'bira l'sheva midos. Excuse me. That 70 years, in order for a person to do this service of refining his 7 emotions, as they're enclosed below in this physical world, in his nefesh behemoths, in his animal soul. But the omod zeh b'kla, the idea what it says, megia shleimus hashviim l'chai, ayin kedusha. That these are the 7 emotional attributes that need to be rectified and transformed into holiness. And transformed to God. And this will reach its completion in the future to come. Well, I just got a whiff of exhaustion. Just hit me over the head. And this is specifically why he said, I'm like a man of 70 years. Rabbi Eliezer Hanasi, he, at the age of 18, rectified. He was already tzaddik. He completed the work of rectifying all 7 of his emotional attributes. Most people get to 70, don't even come remotely close. Here he was 18 years old and he already finished the work of 70 years. And this is why he has the opinion that going out of Egypt is specifically connected to not only the days of your life, but the nights, because he completed his work of refining his 7 emotional attributes. That is what gave him the power to help him in the generation that they should be able to go out of Egypt even in the nighttime, even in the time of darkness. The fall as an Indian is Mitzrayim, but feel about Laila, even in the time of night, even in the time when God is concealed. Noisef all ha'avoda b'zeh b'chol yoyim v'yoyim, in addition to the service day by day, Agan kol yimei chayecha, there is from Mashiach, including the service of bringing redemption, Heilui the Hagula Hashlema, the true and complete redemption, Kishana Asa Hagilui the Shavi'im, refining and elevating the 70 years or the 7 emotions. Then it says, and your eyes will see your teacher. Talking about God. It's referring specifically to the spirit of Chokhmah. That from Chokhmah Titzah, that God creates everything from Chokhmah, that the concealed aspect of God will be revealed. And that all our physical flesh will see God, and the glory of God will be revealed to all. We see this also connected to his name. Shmo Khan, who Eliezer, his name is Eliezer. Oisios El Oizer, which is from the root letters of El, Kel, which is one of God's name, and Oizer, meaning the help of God. Ezrei Hashem, that God will help. Osios Oizer Yud Hey. Eliezer ben Ezriyahu Hayichiv or Shneham Yachad. And Eliezer's name combines both of these aspects together, both God and assisting or helping. Hainu Shurab Eliezer ben Ezriya Yesh Lo Oizer Miyuchad HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this is referring to Rabbi Eliezer ben Ezriya, that he was a helper of God. And even that God as it exists above the world. Hey Mishim El, referring to El, God's name El, Eliezer. Hey Mishim Yud Hey, Ezra Hey. Shishnei Shmois Murim all Darga Shalamama Maser Histosh. The both names referring to God in a level that is above the normal chain of creation. But Allah has come up coming as a Ben Ezra Shnehem Yechad Misham Makabo Ozor. Because specifically the power of the leader of the generation of the Nasi that gives us as individuals and as a nation the power to go out of Egypt, to go overcome our obstacles. Whether it's daytime or nighttime, when God is revealed or God is concealed. To bring Mashiach and through the days of Mashiach. Okay, we're going to skip a drop. We're going to skip over Tes and Yud, because I marked those off in my book for a reason. I think it's just going into a little bit of a detour about a couple of stories from the Gemara. Not that it's not important, but we are going to finish, and God really finished a little bit early. So we're going to continue on with Yud Aleph. And according to this, we can now understand what was explained about our opening comments regarding the Midrash. The English was when Yisrael Haboy Mitzrayim. These are the names of the Jewish people that went down to Egypt. All Shem Gulas Yisrael Yitzchak Khan, and on the name of redemption, the Jewish people are remembered here. Even though in a simple sense they were entering into exile. And remembering going out of Egypt even in the nighttime. referring to the true idea of going down into Egypt. This is the ultimate light or the ultimate darkness. Yerida b'cheshach hagolus, descending into the exile and the darkness of the exile. Geulas Yisrael, and the redemption of the Jewish people of going out of Egypt. Up into bringing the days of Mashiach. As we said above, and therefore, in the name of redemption, the Jewish people are remembered here. Because the intention is to go down to Egypt, into boundaries and limitations. In other words, I think the Rebbe is going to, was the Freudian slip, as I say. I think the Rebbe is going to explain now a little in detail, but just briefly before we go into the inside explanation. He's saying a very profound concept. And in a way, it's a novel or unique concept because it's a basic concept in Chassidus. Ein Yerida ela Ein Yerida ela Aliyah. There's no exile but for redemption. In other words, there's no going down, only to go up. So the typical thing we see when someone's having a hard time, we say, "Oh, you're only going down so you can go up higher." But the Rebbe is bringing a chiddush to that. His chiddush is there is no down. That the obstacles and challenges that God is placing before you are the key to unlock redemption. They're part of your redemption. You're not going down so you can go back up. The down is the up, if that makes sense. Meaning there is no down. That whatever you're going through, whatever challenges, whatever difficulties are part of your redemption. Let's read inside. Excuse me. In addition to the idea of the Jewish people going down into Egypt, they went down to 70 nefesh, 70 soul. It's singular, not plural. It doesn't really say 70 souls. It says 70 soul. One soul, 70 of them. And there is to add into this that is hinted on this service of entering into Egypt, but galus bein shavim omot, the galus that we went down into the exile of the 70 nations in order to be redeemed. And the power came about from the 70 souls that went down, referring to Yaakov and his children and the offspring. All the referring similar to the 70 years. Rabbi Eliezer ben Ezra that says, I am like a man of 70 years. This gave the power to go out of Egypt in the nighttime also. Yevod Mashiach. Okay, that this whole idea of 70, we went down as a 70 soul, and that 70 is connected, of course, to our 70 emotional attributes, which is referring to Ben Zachai, who's saying that I was like a man of 70 years because as a Nasi, I already completed my service of rectifying the 70 emotional attributes. And we have the same idea that we went down into Egypt with our 70 emotional attributes or 70 aspects of our soul to be scattered amongst the 70 nations. And it's from the power of the leader of the generation who's already rectified his 70 emotions that through his power and through his energy, specifically, we're able to bring about redemption. In other words, there's no exile. Even the worst what appearing things seem to be are part of redemption. And from this we can learn out from the teaching of the Midrash connected to the Jewish people, my eyes are starting to come out of my head. Yesh ledas, there is to know she'afilu b'galus, even in the time of the exile, hari noisef lezeh b'nei Yisrael. Lost my place. The Sha'arim Kiyamim, but Taklis Hashlemas Kamovan, but Pashtuts, that continue to fulfill in the ultimate way, Kamumaz Gam, the Saif Parshas V'Yachi, as it hinted in the end of Parshas V'Yachi. Menachatui Oisai V'Yisam, Ba'aron B'Mitzrayim, Shinitchafu, V'Yichantu, הוא בכדי שהגוף ישאר קיים, ואלה שמות בני ישראל הבאים במצרים. And these are the names of the Jewish people that descended into Egypt. Moisif, Yoisin, in addition to this, all Shem, Geulas, Yisrael, Niskarkan. And here the names of the Jewish people are remembered for redemption. In addition to this, we see that Bnei Yisrael Nish'arim, V'shleimus K'neshamas B'gufi, M'chaim B'gashmin, M'chaim B'ruchnim Gam Yechad. That we will stay in a complete way. Souls and Chaim says, thank you. Souls in bodies, physical and spiritual, Gam Yechad, together. Neshama B'riya, B'guf B'riya, that we're going to go out of the exile with healthy souls and healthy bodies. But Takas Shleimus in the most complete way. Ondim Mitzav, Geula Yisrael, Al-Kal Yemechayach Devayisam Mashiach. And all the days of your life to bring the days of Mashiach. In a healthy way, with a healthy body, and a healthy soul. We always have to remember this. We have to work hard. We have to put forth a lot of efforts. But we should never, ever neglect our physical health, our spiritual health, our families, ourselves. We're not meant to be carbon. We're not meant to destroy our lives. Adarabba, our lives are meant to be prosperous in every capacity. And that's the idea, that we're going to go out of Egypt with our head up high, the smile on our face. And we're going to be redeemed, souls and bodies, eternally. Okay. You'll excuse me, I'm going to skip Yud base. I know I've done some skipping here this evening, but I'm really exhausted from our camping trip this weekend, and I still need to catch up on some sleep. Yud base is referring to the Rambam. God forbid not to say that the Rambam is not important, but we know that on the 20th of this month, Tevet, is the Hilula, the Yortzeit, if you will, of the Rambam. And that is exactly, today is what, the 16th of the month? 17, 18, 19, 20, right. So I think that's on Friday. So not to take away from the importance of the Rambam, Chas v'Shalom, he's a Torah giant, but I'm just going to skip over that one paragraph right for now, because it's just deviating a little bit out of what we're talking about, and it's not really changing the mitzvah of what we're at. And I need to get some schluffing in. Okay, we have 2 more letters left, and we'll off to an early finish this evening. Yud Gimel. So we can learn out from this teaching in a simple way. But in this specific time and place as we find ourselves. As many years as has been said and emphasized many times from the leader of our generation. In addition to the fact that we have reached all of the ends, everything is done. And the Jewish people have already done tshuva. And everything is done. In other words, there's nothing holding back for redemption. Including the polishing of the buttons, meaning all the final touches are already complete. וצריך רק שהקדוש ברוך הוא יפתח את עיניהם של בני ישראל, שראה בגודל אמיתוס השלמה כבר ישן. How do you like them apples? The Rebbe said it's necessary only that Hashem will open up our eyes, that we will see that the true and complete redemption is already here. And we're all sitting together at the great table in front of God, with the feast of the great whale and the bull, and the huge bull. Rebbe said it's here. We just need to open our eyes. Then move on from this, we can understand as we said before, how is this relevant to us in our times? That even though we descended into Egypt over 2,000 years ago, and these are the names of the Jewish people that went down to Egypt, it comes out from this that the redemption of the Jewish people. And this is why the Rebbe says, because throughout all this time, the service of the Jewish people is to continue the work of bringing redemption into the exile. It's very powerful. The Rebbe said, the day you're going into Egypt, this is your redemption. You're not being redeemed 210 years from now. Sure, physically you're going out 210 years from now. But spiritually and emotionally, get prepared, because the work, the labor, the effort that you need to put forth to overcome the obstacles that I'm placing before you, this is your redemption. And in fact, our entire work of our entire lives is to continue to do that work, to continue to realize that whatever obstacles that are placed before us, God put them there. And he put them there for us to use and tap into our inner fortitude and our inner powers to overcome them. And when we overcome them, we experience redemption. And that is what it means to be a Yid. And this isn't something we're sitting around and waiting for. Well, when Moshiach comes, it's something we have to be actively participating all the days of our life. Alachas kama v'kama. Ta'ach yishna kavar hariboy b'masiyenu l'avosenu b'meshach kol yachadoros. And how much more the Rebbe how much more so the Rebbe says. Considering how much work has taken place and how much work we've done throughout the continuation of all the generations, including the work of Rabbi Eliezer ben Ezra in his time, the Rambam Bismano and the Rambam in his time, the Kol Tzidikis Rabbi Doros, and every righteous person of the Jewish people, in all generations, Ad B'Dorois Acharon, up into including the most recent generations. Avoda, the Rabbosino Nasino, Michasim, the Beit David, Mishavet Yehuda, including our Rebbes and our leaders, who all come from the tribe of Beit David, the tribe of Yehuda, including the servants of Kavi Kadoshi, Marbechami, Admor, B'Meshech Shavim Shana, B'Chaim, Hayoseh, B'Amadim, including the 70 years of the leadership of the Frierdiker Rebbe, which are continuing and including our time right now. As the Rebbe says, he's a continuation of the Siyas of the Frierdiker Rebbe. Harim b'makol shechem b'kol v'chaymer b'derenu zeh b'zmanu zeh. How much more so in our specific times and our specific place. There achri siyama hakol yishnach b'tcha gomorah b'torah, that we see after the completion of many, many years. All the days of your life to bring Mashiach. But that God forbid we shouldn't be worrying that there should be any separation between all the days of your life and the days of Mashiach. rather all the days of your life, and every single Jew, Chayav HaGashmim HaNeshama B'Guf. We're obligated, souls and bodies, Klalim B'Pashtus Yemos Mashiach, together to bring Mashiach, Bli Hefsek, without any separation. And the redemption should immediately come. But at this exact moment, at this exact point in time, the Golas Naseim Rega Arishona. That since we're in the final last point and moment of the exile, we're in the beginning stages and points of the redemption. All the days of your life, in this time and place, without any separation or interruption, God forbid. It should become immediately in a complete way. Reuven and Shimon Salkin. Reuven and Shimon went down, and Reuven and Shimon went out. The continuation of all the days of your life to bring the days of Mashiach. An eternal life. So reading between the lines is a powerful message the Rebbe is hitting with us here. First of all, we know that the Rebbe announced that your time of redemption has come already. Anyone who was around the Lubavitch in 770 and Crown Heights those days will tell you that it was buzzing. Everyone was saying the Rebbe is Mashiach. The biggest antis in the world who are now. There's videos of them going yichi like this behind the Rebbe for a year and a half. Everyone was bubbling for Mashiach energy. The news teams were in there. Everything was going crazy. The Rebbe knew. He knew what was coming. He agreed to Gimel Thomas. He agreed to all these concealments and hidings. And he's telling us, don't stop. You have to continue. There shouldn't be one brief moment of separation. All the excitement that I stirred you up for redemption needs to continue until we're in a complete redemption. It can't be like, okay, listen, what can we do? The Rebbe tried. It didn't work. We'll just have to wait, and we'll just have to sit there and be patient. No, what is that? Keep going, the Rebbe says. Full power, full power. And there'll be no separation, the Rebbe says, between this world and the next world. Don't think, God forbid, we have to die. There has to be 40 years as an opinion in the Gemara that first we have to die for 40 years and then we have to come back. It's amazing. The Rebbe said it's one shot. We're full Mashiach mode right now. Yud Dalit. And of course, the main thing is the actual deed, the actual action. That the service now for every single Jew is to bring about the days of Mashiach. The goal is and that already this concept of exile immediately of us entering into Egypt. And know that the exile really is the redemption. Excuse me. Until we acknowledge and recognize and see already that we're in the days of Mashiach. Generally and specifically. Connected to the Yom of the Helula of the Rambam. We must increase in strength and an add-on in our learning of the teaching of the Mishnah Torah of the Rambam. Including including that we must spread this out and encourage other Jews to learn the Rambam. Gimel Prachim Yom, 3 Prachim a day, or Perek Echad a day, or 1 Perek a day. All Sefer HaMitzvahs, or the Sefer HaMitzvahs. There's 3 options to learn the Rambam every day. You could learn Sefer HaMitzvahs, the 1 Perek a day, or the 3 Prachim a day. But Pratim more specifically, the Sefer HaRambam Atzmai, the Sefer HaRambam itself, Halachas Melech HaMashiach, where he is the only halachic authority to discuss the qualifications for Mashiach, who is Mashiach, what he's going to do, etc. It's in the Laws of Kings in the Rambam. B'shnei haprakim acharonim the halachas malachim b'siyum sefer HaMishnah Torah. They're the 2 prakim, the 2 chapters, the final chapters in the halachas of Kings in the end of the completion of Rambam's Mishnah Torah. In addition to increasing in our learning, the Hashpia Gam all Oid Ben Yisrael and having an influence on all the Jewish people around us. Anashim Nashim Ataf, men, women, and children. Amdu Batamidim Harbet, including that you must raise up many students. And from them we'll raise up many more students. Hiratson, may it be God's will. That the Rebbe says, immediately from taking upon yourself good resolutions, you will already benefit from the reward. Including fulfillment in actuality, the words of the Rambam that he says at the end of his book. And there will arise a king from the house of David, and he will go in the ways of the Torah and dwell in the mitzvahs like David, his father, his forefather, comes from the seed of David HaMelech. Yukaf kol Yisrael lecha bo lechazik v'davka lechem melchamas Hashem, and he will lead the Jewish people in fighting the wars of God. Sha'az b'chesed Mashiach, and when we see that he is victorious, we will know that he is presumed to be Mashiach. Shekavar yachaya me'ad Mashiach v'dai, and then already we will immediately become for sure Mashiach. The Rambam talks about two stages of Mashiach: Cheskat Mashiach, presumed Mashiach, and Mashiach Vadei, for sure Mashiach. V'al yidei zeh aseh hatzlicha uvana mikdash b'makoyim v'kivetz nidchei Yisrael. And through this, he will be successful in rebuilding the temple in his place and gather the Jewish people from around the world. And the entire world will be rectified and serve the one true God. Harambam, up until the end of the Rambam, where he says, Malah ha'ar tiyah es Hashem kamayim liyam machisim. And the knowledge of God will cover the earth like the water covers the ocean bed. I will see you all in the Beis Hamikdash immediately. God bless you. Moshiach Now.